Welcome to the Kirkpatrick Podcast, bridging traditions and trends in learning and performance evaluation. Whether you're a seasoned learning professional or just starting out, join us as we dive into the Kirkpatrick model like never before. Through stories and insights, we are fusing time-honored methods with cutting-edge innovations to help you navigate the ever-evolving world of learning and performance evaluation. Hey everyone, it's Vanessa and Jim, and on this episode, we have a very special guest with us. We have a Christy Nelson, and she's going to be talking to us all about, well, I have an evaluation plan, so now what do I do? Probably the question that we all have had at one point or another, and she's going to tell us how she overcame having this question and what she does when it maybe comes up every once in a while. Christy Nelson is a learning and development professional with over 14 years of experience in the private and public sectors. She's currently the director of the Division of Multi-Program Leadership and Management Training within the FDA's Office of Regulatory Affairs. She has a Master's of Education with a focus on instructional systems design and e-learning, a gal after my own heart, as well as a BS in film and television. Also a gal after my own heart. I love a good TV show, and a BA in linguistics. She's a certified DISC trainer, gold level certified Kirkpatrick professional, and an EQI 2.0 certified trainer for emotional intelligence. She graduated from the Federal Executive Institute's Leadership for a Democratic Society program in 2023. Christy lives in Maryland with her husband and 2 kids. In her spare times, I don't know how you have spare time, Christy, but in her spare time, she enjoys reading, singing, working out, and spending quality time with her family. A fun fact about Christy is that she attended the Cannes Film Festival twice and created visual effects for Breaking Bad, The Vampire Diaries, and Smallville, among other TV shows and movies. Okay, you know that I always go off script, so I'm going to go off script right now. Do you know the first time I went to the Kirkpatrick office, I went to the town in Georgia where they filmed Vampire Diaries.
Okay, very cool.
We did the full tour. So, Christy, welcome. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being a Kirkpatrick Summit speaker. We cannot wait to hear about your session, and we really are excited about the sneak peek that you're giving us today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I think this is a great opportunity, and I love training. I love evaluation. So any chance I get to chat about it is always a good time.
Amazing. So we know a little bit about your background from your bio, but can you share a little bit more about what it is that you exactly do and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Well, if you couldn't kind of already tell from my very disparate degrees, I sort of took a circuitous route into the training and learning and development field. So straight out of college, I went to Hollywood, started trying to make it in that industry, and gained a lot of different types of experience. Some of what I did is kind of the flashy, fun TV and movies. And some of what I did was just working for corporate companies and filming live events and then editing those together, creating videos. So that sort of gave me a varied skill set that I could apply in a lot of different ways. And it sort of led me into, I started doing more training events and filming those. While I had still been in college, I had a summer internship at the FDA. So when times started getting rough in Hollywood, I called up my old supervisor at the FDA and said, hey, are there any opportunities to maybe possibly come back and work for you? And he was able to hire me as contractor. And so I started just as an AV support person, setting up classrooms, eventually went back, got my master's degree. And that's really how I kind of just been in training ever since. I think it's one of those things where it wasn't entirely planned. Never, pictured myself necessarily working for the federal government, but I really found a passion for it. And that led me into leadership. I'm a continuous learner, so I love learning and developing, and I really love helping other people to learn and grow and develop and improve. And so that's sort of been the kind of track that I've taken now. And I think it's just so much fun to be able to work in training because it's so different. There's always something new and different and challenging that we get to accomplish together.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about your Kirkpatrick path. So when did you start? Who was your facilitator? And tell me all the things.
So Jim was my facilitator.
Ooh.
I took the bronze certified training. And at that time, evaluation was one of those things that all we ever did were like smile sheets. And no one really knew how to take it a step further. So I sort of convinced my boss, let me go learn. Let me see what I can find out. And so I took the bronze certification and then immediately tried to apply it. Like even in the classroom, I was sitting there. All right, how is this going to work for my program when I get back to work? How am I going to explain this to my boss? How am I going to explain it to my coworkers and colleagues? And then we just went straight into implementation and trying it out. Obviously had some successes and some challenges. And so through that, I said, all right, I need Jim's help again. So I went back and I did the silver certification. And that really came at I think a perfect time. I liked kind of spreading apart the certifications. I know sometimes folks like to take them back to back. For me, it gave me that additional time to be able to come to you, Jim, and say, hey, this is a very specific challenge that we're having, and we're really stuck, and we could use your expert advice. And then we could change and shift and do some different things. And I remember when we presented our kind of final project to you for the silver certification, you thought it was so great and you were like, you should be presenting it to others. And I was like, really? Because I'm so brand new at this. Like, I didn't really think it was going to be kind of like a natural talent or something. But it sort of was. And then when I was at the Federal Executive Institute, that was when I had the opportunity to present to that cohort. And that is what earned me my gold. So everything just sort of worked out. But I've loved the journey.
Well, let me tell you, when you talk about sort of worked out, even today, I talked with some people getting ready for their final silver presentation. And unfortunately, they did a rough, run through. It was just as I had expected and what I had feared and what I see so often. And that is, I saw a quote the other day from Steven Spielberg. They said, what's the secret of your success in the movies? He said, gotta have a good story. That's how he answered it. Now, what I remember about yours and why I was so excited about having you do something with it more with us is you told a story. And with the heart was added and with the data. And I just rarely see that. And it's really a shame because so many people do a great job. And then in the end, when it's time to present, they lay an egg because they just traditionally follow, here's the script, here's what this was, here's what this was. No inflection in their voice, no pointing out what is the story, no connection. They get done. And sometimes I get a little rude. They said, how did I do? I said, well, you lost me 10 minutes ago. Everything you said was accurate, but you've got to capture the hearts of people if you're going to influence them. And you use the word passion and you sing and all that stuff. And it's natural for you. And we need to capture you. That's why we're talking to you right now, because we want to spread you and the spirit of winning the verdict from your jury. It isn't just going to be in the data. It's going to be in the way you connect to their hearts. And you've already captured mine at the time that I've known you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I think you really nailed it. It's about how do you connect with the audience? So if we talk about just getting started and how do I get started, you can pick really any program. I think some of it, the program you pick is important in the way it connects with the audience. So if I go to my strategic plan and I start looking at what are the priorities from senior leaders, and then I kind of identify, well, what are the sorts of programs we have that might help move the target for them? Then I'm already got a connection point. I've already identified this is something that's going to resonate because every senior leader has usually an SES plan or, some kind of performance plan where they need to show progress. They need to show how they're moving the needle. And so if you can kind of just get in on the ground floor to show, let me show you how I can help you move that needle, the something you already care about, then that's a really great starting place.
And I also remember that you're very good at listening first. Seek first to understand, because to me, that's how you earn the right to say, here's how I can help you. Too often we jump in and say, wow, you should see the upskill program we got, or the new, the new model, or the new competency model. And they're saying, you don't even understand what I do, and then they wonder why they don't get buy-in, from those people. It's an art that some of us have, but it's also a science of how do you actually earn the right to hear, oh, you sound like you seem to show an interest in what we're doing here. Is there anything you can do to help us? And then the answer is, I think if we work together, I think there is. And I know that you have the patience and resist the temptation to jump in and offer solutions by earning that trust first.
Yeah. And some of that just takes time. It's about building relationships, building coalitions and partnerships. Sometimes you just have to kind of take advantage of an opportunity. So my division that I lead now, we hold classes all the time, sometimes multiple times a week. It's probably around the ballpark of about 200 classes a year. So it's a lot of work. And we don't expect senior leaders to be able to kind of show up to class and present or anything. Sometimes we'll ask them to if it's a particularly important program, if it's a new thing that we're rolling out, or for a very specific audience that might need that kind of touch point with senior leadership. But sometimes it's like we're on a break from a class, it's lunchtime, and we are walking around the building and we happen to see the senior leader in the cafeteria and we're like, hey, we have a class going on right now. It's upstairs. Do you have just maybe a couple minutes? You want to pop in and say hi? And that actually worked out really well for us. He was like, absolutely, I'd love to say hi. We thought he was going to stay for 5-10 minutes. He stayed for an hour. He answered a ton of questions from the students. And at the end, I walked up to him and I said, thank you so much for being here. It means so much to the students. It also means so much to us as the training professionals. It shows that you support us in what we do. And a lot of what he talked about being FDA and a public health mission was his passion for public health. And so I said to him, public health starts with training people how to protect it. And so that helped resonate with him immediately, that like, this is our connection point. Training is just as important as going out and doing an inspection, doing an investigation, looking at the imports. Like, it's all connected. We're all connected. We have that shared mission. And so by sort of speaking his language, like keying in on the words that were important to him, that helped to build a connection. And that was just a, random, like we didn't expect it, didn't plan it, but we took advantage of it when it happened.
And you know what, I'm going to use this as a teaching point, because so many people think you do a level 3 performance and then a level 4 separate. Well, you just gave a perfect example of your level 3 was seeing him in the cafeteria, okay, and asking him, hey, you got a few minutes to join us, right? That was your level 3. That was a behavior that you did. I'm not sure it's on any critical behavior list. It was very random. It wasn't scheduled. But then the level 4 starts when he said, okay, and then I saw you're pretty lit up anyway, but then you really
got a lot of energy.
I mean, from a partying point of view, but I mean, from just your spirit, but then you really lit up when then you said, and it went really well, right? And then you described what he did. He's the level 4. He is the leading indicator that he responded to what you did. And then the people in the class and you are further level 4 because it had influenced so much by you taking that one bold step that I'm just going to be honest, most people wouldn't have done. Oh, we don't want to bother, we don't want to do this. But sometimes, Vanessa's, she's right in there with you as far as relationships and taking bold steps. Sometimes you just got to make your move and make a step. And what's the worst? You could say, I'm ready to eat my lunch. But
sure. I mean, I certainly can't claim, total credit for that. It wasn't me in particular who approached him in the cafeteria. But, I think that's kind of the point is, how do you create those environments in teams so that they feel empowered to take advantage of those opportunities? They didn't feel like they needed to call me up and be like, do I need to ask first before I approach this person? They already felt comfortable doing that. And then when I found out he's there, of course, I'm going to pop in. And that was when I kind of said my thing at the end.
Of course
but it's really a team effort.
Vanessa, take off on that, which as far as you talk about a culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is kind of like that.
Yeah. So actually, Chrissy, was resonating for me when you just shared what you said is it sounds like what you're creating is a psychologically safe place
Mhm.
where you can have those sorts of conversations. People feel empowered to do those things. So it's really about you've been able to build the right culture to have those with your team to be able to feel empowered to have those conversations. And it's just so paramount and so necessary in order to reach those stakeholders, right? And I just want to bring it back for one moment. And before we get to that, I need to know about your evaluation plans. Now, I need to understand when you went to bronze, right? You felt great. You're like, we're going to do this thing. It's going to be amazing, right? What was your first step after that?
So I would say the templates and the resources that you all provide are so critically important for getting started because it takes a lot of the guesswork out. It takes a lot of the, well, what is the next step? Well, here I have a template. So at the very least, I can start with that template. So for me with that program, it meant going back to my boss, explaining what I learned in the program, and then saying, can you give me that leeway to try? I can't make promises that this is going to fix the whole world, but let's just try it. Let's just do something different. Let's see how it goes. And so I did start by looking at the strategic plan. I begin with the end in mind. So start with that level 4 planning and looked at, how can I sell this? Like I was already going into the buy-in aspect of what's going to resonate. Who is the audience? Who are the senior leaders who are going to be interested in this? What are they going to be interested in? And so I sort of sketched out a rough draft of what a level 4 plan could look like. And I used the mountain graphic from the training because that to me helps tell the story. It's very easy. It's a visual that everyone understands. We have a flag at the top. We got to get to that flag. How are we going to get there? We're going to follow this path. How do we know we're on the path? Because we have like our leading indicators, our little mini flags that tell us we're on the right path so that we haven't diverged and we went over here in the woods. And anytime I explain Kirkpatrick to anyone, I always use that graphic because it just helps them understand it in a way where I don't have to teach them the whole model. I think sometimes that can be an issue that like a common pitfall that people have is they think someone else, in order to buy in, has to really understand the entire model. And they really don't. They just have to get the basics of, we're going to try to show the value of this program. So what are the metrics that are going to say that this is an efficient, effective program, that it was worthwhile, that the program in and of itself has value. And the model gives us an easy way, or maybe easy isn't the right word, but a better way to kind of, go about identifying that data, collecting that data. So I'd have a rough draft of my mountain, what I think possibly it could be kind of as a starting point, rather than a blank mountain. Because I think it's another kind of important part when you're working with senior leaders. They're busy. They don't have a lot of time. They don't want to start from a blank slate often. They want to see something and react to it. So I give them something to react to. And then they say, yeah, you've got the right flag at the top, but I don't know that those flags down here make sense. I might tweak some leading indicators from there. And then once I sort of get the general buy-in that this program is going to help us get to that flag at the top, that's when they're like, okay, let's do it. And then we just start implementing.
What I love what you're saying here, and to tie your earlier story, is that you're not waiting for permission, right? You're doing something simultaneously, right? You're creating your plan and you're creating sort of that direction, but you're also working and bringing in your leaders as needed, right? I'm starting to bring them in and say, let's try it on something small, right? And let's try little by little. Because I think where some folks get frustrated with evaluation and where they feel afraid, like to Jim's point, like not to make a move, is because they feel like they have to have the buy-in in order to get there, right? So they're almost walking up to their boss with that blank mountain image and being like, this is where I think we've got to go, but like, how are we going to get there? And I think what you said is so powerful is you're starting to draft it. You're creating a sketch. So it's something to react to. Like I say it to the team all the time, like, don't come to me with like nothing. Give me 3 options. Start for me a little bit, because there are so many things that are pulling at my attention, pulling at my day, that you're helping me out. What you may think is so small, you're actually helping me out like 75% of the way, right? And it means so much. And I love that you're doing both of the things at the same time, right? Like you're developing, you're creating, right? You're taking initiative and you're taking ownership. And you are you're making the steps to bring along, your senior leaders and bring them along the way to start to create that buy-in, knowing that that's going to take a little bit longer of time.
Yeah. And in my current role, there's been times where it's taken much longer than we expected to get buy-in. It took, I would say, I don't know, I haven't clocked it, but like over a year, where we had a draft Kirkpatrick plan that just sort of collected dust. And I think part of the reason that happened was because we hadn't identified the right stakeholders to begin with. We weren't going to the right people to ask these questions. So when we would show them things, they just it'd be a lot of blank stares, or, well, that's great, but, I don't really have time for that. Or, we just get sort of the not much interest in what we were doing. And so when we started to kind of delve into it deeper and say, we really need to do this for us. We need to be able to show the value of this program. We need to be able to better communicate with our stakeholders, with the agency, to be able to show that this program is important and that it helps us meet our mission. And if we didn't have it, the agency would not be able to meet its mission, because we're talking training for this one, it's like all new hires that come in that are going to be investigators or laboratory analysts. This is the basic foundation of knowledge that they need to be able to continue their careers in the FDA. It's a critically important program. It's not something that can be breezed through. It's not something that we could just, put together and send somebody to a 2-week class and say, you're done. We built a 7-month program. It has a lot of different pieces to it. There's in-person classes, there's online classes, there's self-paced classes, there's on-the-job training, there's mentoring built into it. It's a very robust program. But for us, it was like, who are those people then? Who are those people that care? It was the lower levels of leadership. It was looking at the first line supervisors. It was looking at the program division directors that are the ones who are responsible for getting their work done, for getting X number of inspections done. They were the ones that are like, we need more people trained. I need my people trained. I need them trained faster so that they can get to the job. And we're like, absolutely, you want them trained faster, but you also want them trained well. So we had to kind of meet them where they were. And then that really helped us to get the momentum that they may not fully understand what we were doing, but they were bought into, this program is important and we want the program to succeed.
What a birthday gift for Jim Kirkpatrick today. This conversation, right? All I kept thinking is like, this is exactly what you talk about, Jim, right? It is knowing that sometimes it takes some time. Yeah, exactly.
You made a really good point, Christy. I'm afraid in our work, so often people think that they have to get buy-in and recruit the highest level people. They think you need to really have a conversation with the 1-star general or the secretary of state, whatever. But we're finding more and more that you should build the bridges with the people that care and are actively involved, and really focus on the level 3 stuff, because then the level 4 stuff takes care of itself. If you get them recruit them as champions and challenging and supporting people. But you need to know what's on the mountain, what the top of the mountain is. Of course, you don't want to be going the wrong place. Right. You have to get that through documents and through people that know. But the work gets done. And ultimately, what I'm finding is if you can get line managers and supervisors to say, Christy and her team really help my people do their job better. Yeah, you're well on your way. You don't have to be proving stuff all the way up. It's nice to have that, but that's really, when it comes to that, you have been accepted into the so I was going to say for fraternity, but I'll say sorority too, because of Vanessa with that. I want to be inclusive there, but right. But that's well said. That was a great story.
I'll take us on a tangent because I love a tangent.
Good.
Delta Gamma is actually a fraternity. Did you know that we're called Delta Gamma fraternity because
I don't know that.
We were founded before the word sorority was even a thing.
Wow.
So look at that, Jim. Just a little something fun.
I'm shocked and I'm embarrassed. I didn't know that.
Just some fun facts. I've got to shock you every once in a while too. So I want to touch back really quickly. You said that you had an evaluation plan that sat there and collected dust. Was that discouraging to your team at all? And how did you guys keep that momentum? Like, what was happening while that was seemingly collecting dust?
Well, there was certainly a lot of turmoil going on in the organization. Federal government loves to reorg. So we were in the midst of a reorg. So I think attention just wasn't really on learning and development. It was on how do we make this, specific initiative happen. So part of it, I think, was a timing issue. Also, at the time, I was the only certified Kirkpatrick person. So I was really wanting it to happen, but not necessarily the team or anyone else in the organization was really coming to me saying, hey, we want to show this program's value. We want to evaluate it. It was just something that I knew that I've been able to apply that I thought could help us move that needle in the direction that the organization wants to go. And I'm sorry, I totally kind of forgot the question there. Started to go on a tangent myself.
No, all good. But what were you doing during that time? Right. So you were going through your reorg and all of that. How are you keeping people kind of interested, keeping it kind of top of mind?
Yeah. I probably, in all honesty, didn't keep it top of mind all the time. At a certain point, I felt like there is so much resistance to this. I need to pause and kind of find out more. Jim, you mentioned listening earlier. I think listening is incredibly important. It can't be understated. So for a while, I just sort of pivoted and said, well, let's find out more about the organization. Let's build better relationships. Let's focus on some other work. And then I always had it. I'd already done kind of the basic legwork of it. So when I felt that now might be the right time to reintroduce it, I wasn't starting from ground zero. So I already had a draft. I just went in and updated it. And then was able to revisit it with my boss and say, hey, remember this thing that we talked about like a long time ago? This might be the right time. Now people are really interested in this program because after the reorg, we had to redesign the entire program. So at that point, people are asking, hey, we just spent all this money and time redesigning this program. How do we know it was worth it? How do we know it's a better program than it was before we started this redesign? So that was when I was like, oh, we're going to know because we're going to evaluate it. So here we go.
I love that because, it's oftentimes we can get discouraged, put it away. And like a kid, right? You throw your toys down and just like pack up and go home. You're like, I'm done. I'm not going to, this was a waste. But the fact of the matter is that, there's so many things that go on in an organization that are outside of our own control, that having a little bit of that patience, right? And just knowing that it's more about the incremental steps as opposed to like the ultimate end goal. And I think that's where we also see, the leading indicators come in and the flags up the mountain. It's like, if you are just waiting for that end result and to be at the top of the mountain, that can get very discouraging. Right. So it's about all of these little steps are going to help you continue that motivation to keep going.
You know what else I'm hearing is you had your fingers on the pulse of the business, of the workplace, didn't you? Because a lot of people would say, well, I tried this program or whatever, this training, and it didn't work. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do ZADI. I'm going to design, develop, and deliver more training without having any fingers on the pulse to know what's going on because they built no relationship. There's no radar. You have spent time on the other side. And I think that's as big a lesson as anything is you have, and knowing you've invited yourself in sometimes, haven't you? And just saying,
maybe a little bit.
But you should. We can't wait until they invite us because they see us as a cost center, us being level 1 and level 2 training delivery. Yeah. It's a cost center. Why do we need you? But you hung around long enough to realize and sense the time was right. And that's what we encourage anybody to do is spend time over there, be bilingual, be a dual citizen, rather than hoping that level 1 and level 2 and our training solutions and learning solutions are going to win the day they aren't, and they never will by themselves. So good for you. That's great. Great lesson.
Thank you. I think also like that flag at the top is sometimes it's a really big flag. It's not really something that you're going to be able to fully attain. Like it might be the mission of the agency to protect and promote public health. Like that's our goal.
That's right. That's
right. So this one program isn't really going to fully get us there, but it's helping us get there. And I think just being able to show progress and being able to show where we used to be and where we are now, you really only need those 2 data points that can help sell it for people.
And you know what we're doing is we are over the years here, and especially recently, de-emphasizing the flag at the top of the mountain. We're identifying it, and we want people to know that we are interested in contributing to that, but we're not going to be staring up at the FDA mission all the time. You're going to be working in the lower slopes. And ultimately, you ought to be able to make a case that we have contributed our fair share. So we really focus on the leading indicators as the demonstration that what we're contributing to the workplace is paying off.
Right.
I think that's what you said.
So Christy, based on your experience, so you were able to get people to say, yes, this is like, we're going to evaluate this program. What was implementation like? And were there any pitfalls or pushback at all while you were doing the implementation?
Sure. So probably draw from kind of both of the major programs I've used in this. Some common pitfalls are just not getting started at all. Like sometimes you got to just dive in and just try it. You don't have to do an entire level 4 plan and do all 4 levels and do it all simultaneously in order to be successful. So you might just want to do things in stages and just take a little piece. Part of what we kind of had going on underneath all of this reorg and stuff as an organization in training is we had a level 1 evaluation template that we used, and we knew we needed to do more with level 2. So we started trying to standardize what does a level 2 kind of thing look like for us that we could use across all of our programs instead of just trying to tailor a level 1, 2, 3, 4 to one single program. So that can be kind of another option for people. It's very flexible. It's a flexible model. Yes. It can feel overwhelming that like there's so much I have to do, but if you just kind of take it in stages and focus on one part at a time, then it becomes a little bit more manageable. It's not quite as overwhelming. So some other common pitfalls I've run into would be response rates and being overly concerned with getting a very high response rate. I mean, if you look at kind of statistically, the average response rate is around 30%, which when you look at as a percentage, you go, well, that's abysmal. That's terrible, but actually it's not. That's average. And so for a long time, particularly with the first time that I was doing this, we were very concerned with that. We wanted it to be 100%. And we felt like if we could just get it to be 100%, we'll have reached some different level of success. And what we realized was that really won't help us because any type of survey mechanism like that is only a snapshot in time. And there's so many factors that contribute to how somebody responds to it. They could have had a bad day. They could have just had a fight. There could be something personal going on. They could have just had a project taken away at work. Like they could be just not particularly content in that one moment, and it somehow gets represented in those results. So we tried to, as much as possible, to sort of triangulate data. Let's use multiple different data points. It doesn't matter if we get a really great response rate. Let's talk to people. Let's go out and have interviews. Let's hold a focus group. Let's see what's the general kind of rumblings in the organization around training. Are they saying positive things? Are they saying negative things? And we'd use all of that to help inform whether or not something was necessarily meeting a particular goal that we had set.
You just said triangulate on Jim Kay's birthday. That's another birthday gift.
Yeah, we call that blended evaluation, and it's awful silly, isn't it, to rely on a single source, single method. And what drives me crazy really is someone that says, we want to contract you to help improve our survey response rate. I can just barely hold myself together to say, no. But if we talk, we can probably come up with some other things that are more important than that. But,
yeah. And then maybe the last thing I would say is being too tied to your plan. I think part of not just Kirkpatrick model, but like training and learning and development in general is the need to be flexible and adaptable, to kind of shift and change depending on what's going on. So sometimes we'll make a plan and we think it's a great plan. We're like, we have all these metrics, and like it's going to be fantastic. And we're going to do this at this point in time and this at that point in time. And all these people bought in, and then we go to implement and we're like, why are we getting a low response rate? Why are we getting, maybe not great data? Maybe the survey results aren't particularly positive. Maybe it's saying that this portion of the class is not great. And then we look at that and we go, well, if we just keep plodding forward, it's like back to that mountain. We're going to be off over here in the trees somewhere. We're not actually on the path. So we need to flex. We need to change. We need to do something different. And sometimes it's streamlining. Sometimes it's just totally developing something brand new. It might be that we did a really great job training the students, but we never trained the supervisors. And so the reason the students aren't doing what they're supposed to do is because the supervisors don't know they're supposed to be doing it. They're not holding their staff accountable to doing it. And now we're seeing it's not successful. And it's not because there's something wrong with the training. There's something wrong with the pipeline and the employee life cycle of what they know they're supposed to do, what the supervisors know, what they're being measured on, what's important to them. So it's all interconnected.
I am so excited for the summit.
Wait, are you showing up at this? You're going to be at the summit?
She's speaking at the summit.
I'm so excited.
Speaking. Oh, I'm going to show up too then.
No pressure or anything, Christy.
Yeah.
I have one more thing to ask. You said you do singing.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Vanessa knows. Do you have any typical favorite song that you like to sing?
I hope you're not going to ask me to sing it now if I tell you a title, but I'm like a musical theater kid. That was what I did in high school. So I love Wicked. I love Hamilton. I love musicals. So, and my daughter has been hearing me sing them forever. And so she's been joining me in singing. We'll just be singing around the house, all these different songs from musicals.
Can you give us a little bit from Elphaba? What's her name in Wicked? What's her name?
Yeah, Elphaba in Wicked.
Just a little bit. You got
no, that's all right. If you wanted me to sing, you're going to have to give me a little bit more preparation time for that.
Well, you be prepared for the summit then. That's enough time.
All right. That'll work. I'll just have a solo just right at the end.
Right. I was just going to ask.
I will remember.
Tell me about your session, and will there be singing in your session? So what can we expect from you, Christy, at the summit? What's your session all about?
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of a deeper dive into some of what we talked about here. I'm going to talk about overcoming those kind of difficulties in getting started, in how do you go about getting buy-in, in what does a level 3 plan really look like, and what's the difference between planning for it and implementing it, and also kind of tailoring language sometimes to sort of speak the language that's going to resonate with your audience so that they are more engaged in it and they want to help you actually get to what that thing is at the top of the mountain.
I'm so excited in particular for the planning for level 3 and implementing, because just as we were chatting about just now, that flexibility is so key. Christy, where can our listeners connect with you?
Yeah, so I would love to connect with people on LinkedIn. I hope to see you at the Kirkpatrick Summit. I think it's going to be a very exciting, a really great time to be able to network with other learning and development professionals and evaluation professionals. So I hope to be able to see people there as well.
Amazing. Christy, thank you so much for this enlightening conversation. It was amazing. I cannot wait, like I said, to hear you speak at the summit, maybe sing, who knows? And we appreciate your time today. Friends, thank you all so much for catching today's episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. Please tell us down below, what was your favorite part? Did you take any nuggets away? And make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and we will catch y'all on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.